Hello, my name is Andrew John Rainnie. I am the author of Spirits of Vengeance, A Stone of Spirits. It's my debut fantasy novel. It's available now as an ebook and on paperback as well. And welcome back to my book blog. Now, it's been about 7 or 8 weeks since I last done an episode of the book blog. I do apologise for the delay, but I was contracted to write a screenplay. So I've been very busy doing that, and I've now finally got a first draft out the way. So while I'm waiting for notes, I thought I would squeeze in another edition of this book blog. So last time I said I was going to talk about how to get your book from once you've finished a final draft to the public domain. So get it into an ebook store or get it on a physical book. So there are a number of companies out there that will do this for you. Some of them are free and you have to do a lot of the legwork yourself. Other companies will do it for you, but you do have to pay them, and in some cases it's an extortionate amount of money. But if you do have it lying around, it will save you some time, so it is up to yourself whether to do that or not. So because I was working on a very shoestring budget, the companies I ended up doing the ebook with were Amazon, I'm sure you've heard of them, and also a company called Smashwords. Now, what Smashwords do is they will format your book in a number of ebook formats, and they will get it into a number of stores. And they'll take a cut for this, but their service is free initially. So they'll get it into Barnes & Noble, they'll get it into the iTunes store, they'll get it into the Sony ebook reader store, and they'll get it into a number of other stores that you've never even heard of around the world. And Amazon will just do it on exclusively for Kindle. Now, the reason I went with both of these companies is because they are free and rather painless. With Smashwords, what you'll do is you will give your book to them, and they will put it into what they call their meat grinder, and they will grind it up, chew it out and spit it out, and it will come out in a number of different formats. Now, in order to do this successfully, you have to format your book in a very precise way. Now, I'm not going to go through the ins and outs of this because Smashwords have their own guide, and it is very, very good. So read through the guide first of all before you attempt to do this. But essentially all it involves is you taking your book in whatever format you have it, putting it into a notepad document so that it loses all the formatting, and then putting it back into a Word document or whatever software you use, and then formatting it accordingly so that there's nothing missing. It will also ask you to turn on all the symbols so that you can see if there's any spaces or any paragraphs out of place. It takes a little bit of time, but it is worthwhile because the end result is amazing. And you can find my book on iTunes and Barnes & Noble as a result of the Smashwords process. You can also find it on their own store, which is very good because they offer a higher percentage to authors if it's bought direct from their store. Now, with Amazon are slightly different. They actually take Word documents. They also have their own guide for publishing as an ebook on the Kindle store. Now, the guide is a little outdated, and if you look on the discussion boards of the Amazon Kindle community, you will find a number of different answers to a number of different questions. Now, the main question I struggled with, and it's the one that Smashwords does quite well, is that when you have an ebook, you want what's called a meta file. It's an NCX file, I believe, on the Kindle. Now, what this does is this will point to all your chapters so that someone can just go to the main menu, hit a chapter and return to that chapter rather than having to flick through all the pages to get to where they left off. Now, some people will say that you have to do this yourself on a different software like Sigil. You do not have to do this. Amazon Kindle process will do it for you. All you need to do is write your book in a docx file. So Microsoft have Microsoft Word, and it used to write out in what was just called a doc file. I believe it upgraded in 2010 to docx. So if you're using any edition after 2010, you can save it as a docx file. When you publish the docx file onto the Kindle's site, it will recognise your chapter headings from the H1 heading menu. So when you're writing your book, if the chapters have the H1 header, so at the top right of your Word document, you should see a number of different outlays. So it'll be normal without spacing, and then there should be one called header. Now, that's the one that you want to put your chapters in so that the Amazon software recognises it and transforms those into your chapter guides so that people can flick through your chapters. It's relatively straightforward. It's more straightforward than the Smashwords one, to be honest, but this is just specifically for the Kindle store, whereas Smashwords takes your book and gets it into a number of different stores and a number of different formats. So they both work equally well, and they are both free. Now, the two companies do take a cut of your earnings. Smashwords take, I believe it's 30%. Amazon will take either 30 or 70% depending on where you are selling. So it just depends on that. It also depends on Amazon on the price that you've set. So you might want to look into that and see if your price would be better served to get you a higher cut, or if you're happy to take a lower percentage and a lower price rate so that more people will buy your book. So it's entirely up to you. Now, with regards to getting a paperback published, again, there's a number of different companies that will do it for you. Some of the biggest ones you will find charge you some money. Now, Amazon have a subsidiary called CreateSpace, and they do not charge you. In the end, after much research, I decided to go for CreateSpace. The close runner-up was a company called Ingress, and the reason I was tempted to go with Ingress was because they are able to sell it in high street stores such as Waterstones. They will actually be able to get it into the shelves. Bookstores don't tend to buy books from CreateSpace because they have a no buyback policy. So normally what happens with a publisher is they'll sell Waterstones or Tesco's or Sainsbury's. They'll sell them bulk books, and if none of them sell, the publisher will buy them back. Amazon won't do that. They'll sell them to the company, or CreateSpace rather. CreateSpace will sell them to the company itself, but they will not have a buyback clause, so the company either has to sell them or just burn them, essentially. So not a lot of companies will take your book if it's published solely on CreateSpace, so you may want to look at a number of different options. Because this was my first book, I am quite happy to sell it as a CreateSpace book on Amazon and on my own website, because when you publish via CreateSpace, you can buy them at cost yourself as an author, and then you can act as a agent to get your books into bookshops if you like, and that is something I'm doing at the moment. I'm trying to get my books into local stores, smaller stores, because the bigger ones won't take a self-published author, but smaller companies seem more keen on doing so to get new blood into their markets. Now, the process for doing the CreateSpace formatting is a lot different from doing the ebook, because none of the digital files matter, it's how it looks in paper. So the best thing to do is to follow the CreateSpace guide, because it's what I followed and the book came out incredibly well. And what they would suggest is that you, in order to make it look a bit more professional, you might want to have all your chapters starting on the right hand side. Now, I found a very quick way to make sure that all my chapters were aligned, because if you go into Microsoft Word, which is what I write on, I'm certain you'll find this function on other word processing software. If you shrink the page enough, you'll find that instead of one page appearing on your screen, you'll get to 2, and then you'll get to 4. Now, what you want to do is line it up so that there are 4 on your screen, and then you can just flick down through them, and you'll be able to see where your chapters begin. And if it's on the right hand side, you should all line up on 2 columns. Now, the other issue I came up with when publishing on paperback was the cover. Now, in my opinion, the cover is more important in a paperback than it is as an ebook. As an ebook cover, all you design is the front page. As a paperback, you have to design the front page, the back page, and the spine. And if you want a wraparound cover, then that's another matter in itself. I did want a wraparound cover, so I ended up designing something on my own. Now, if you're not graphically inclined, or if you're not artistic in any way, then I would strongly suggest hiring someone to do that. There are a number of talented people out there who are very good at designing covers, and they will do it for you at a very good cost. All you need to do is seek them out. Some of the best ones are found on Twitter or DeviantArt. You can also find them on places like Fiverr or Freelancer or Elance. Now, I know my way around a couple of graphic packages, so I decided to do it myself, and I had a very specific idea of what I wanted. So I went and found some stock footages and played around with them until I found the perfect one, and then I started laying on the text and things like that. Now, I had to order 3 proof copies of my book, one after the other, and the sole reason was for the cover. The book inside was fine, but the cover was not to my liking, the first one anyway. The reason being that I was working on RGB colour, and the cover came out in CMYK. That's what it's printed as on CreateSpace, and all the colours were just very muted. It was a little bit too dark, so I ended up fooling around with it and getting a second one done, and most of that worked except for some of the text. So I just played around with the text a little more to make sure everything was clear and crisp. For example, the blurb on the back was very dull and hard to read, so I've just made that very bright so that when it was printed it looked relatively normal. Now, when you're designing your cover, if you are going to do it yourself, when you look at my cover is a group of trees, but it's got a very mystical feel about it, and I've added some lens flare in it to give it the sense of magic, to give it a sense of the fact that it's a fantasy novel. And I cannot stress enough how much a book's cover will determine the genre, or will make people think what genre it is. And as a self-published author, you do not want to do experiments. You want to make people very aware from the moment they see the cover as to what the book is, and then they can look inside and make sure and justify that purchase. So I had designed the cover for the paperback, and then I took that cover and made it my ebook cover. So I had both images there already, rather than doing the ebook cover first and then having to work on a separate cover for a paperback, because my cover wraps around the entire book from the front, the spine and the back. And I've also designed the covers for the next two books to do the exact same, so I wanted it to have the same feel from book to book. I wanted it to feel like it was part of a series. So that's really all I've got to say about the ebook and paperback process. Next time I'm going to delve into a little bit about marketing and approaching people. If you have any questions regarding what I've brought up, or any questions you want me to go into any more detail, just leave me a note on YouTube or go to my website. It's www.andrewjohnrainnie.com, and there's a contact page there, and you can get me on email and Twitter as well, and I'll answer any queries that you have. In the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the book. If you've not bought it yet, what is stopping you? It's amazing. Look at Goodreads and look at Amazon. It's getting 4 and 5 stars reviews, so I'd heartily recommend picking up a copy. And if you want a signed copy and you live in the UK, just go onto my website and you can see it there, and I'll sign you a personal copy, and I'll send it off to you with a free bookmark as well. Until next time, I'm Andrew John Rainnie, and I've been your book blog guide. Thank you.